Not long ago, I shot a video that showed how to avoid culture killers. And in it, one of the things that I spoke about was how to know when an employee or a team member is no longer a good fit for your company. And more importantly, I laid out a game plan for how to politely and legally terminate relationships with them before they infected the rest of your team. Anyway, since then, we had a lot of questions about how to know when it's time to cut somebody loose, and also a couple of very, very long negative posts from people who were employees, and they wanted to share all the issues they had with the fact that their boss was allowed to fire them. But in the real world, a good company does everything they can to keep great team members, right? But every single company also has a responsibility to everybody else on their team to fire anybody who's dragging the rest of the people down. So I want to spend just a moment, I want to speak about this, because in my companies, we have a checklist, and it's important that you also have a checklist, because this should be a policy that every single leader on your team follows, and they should follow it perfectly to help you avoid legal issues. And the very best way to do that, at least in my opinion, is to have a formal checklist for knowing when to fire somebody, right? And anyway, we have a checklist that lists the reasons why somebody is no longer a good fit for our company. So much so that they need to be let go, right? And there's a lot of very basic things on that, and there should be on your list also things about dishonesty and fraud and slander and theft and continuous communication issues, or poor performance, or bad culture fit, or violating company policy, or persistent negativity, right? All of that kind of stuff. And there's a bunch more as well. But as soon as one of those check boxes gets ticked off, we have a meeting with that employee, and we clearly discuss and we clearly document the issue with them right then and there, and then they sign that piece of paper so that they know what the problem is. And if they don't improve after that meeting, they know they're going to be let go. But there's one unwritten rule that I also live by, and that's not formally on that list, and it's one of probably the most important things. And it's when you, as the owner or the CEO or the manager of a company, when you find yourself having arguments in your head with that one employee. And let me be very clear here, because I'm not talking about you having personal issues with anybody. I'm referring to an employee who's not meeting their targets, or they're constantly disruptive, but maybe you're afraid to fire them because you don't have anybody else in that position to fill their shoes. Let me give you an example. When I was in the health club industry, which is years and years and years back, I had a 45-minute drive to the office every single day. And on most of those days, that was great for me because I had meetings on the phone while I was driving. And when I had some really quiet time in the car, when I wasn't in meetings, I would process everything, right? I'd process a whole lot of stuff in my head and plan things out for the rest of that day. So it was very meditative for me. But there was one time that I had a person working for me who was probably the most argumentative team member that I've ever met. Right? The kind of employee who swore that the reason the company was doing so well was only because of them. And if they left, the company would crumble. And if you've been an employee for any length of time, then you probably know somebody like that, right? And you know that kind of person is a virus. But when I was young, I didn't want to fire them because they were such a great salesperson. That one person easily closed more sales than everybody else on the team. But after a while, every single day, I'd drive that 45 minutes to my office, and I'd have a 45-minute freaking argument in my head with that person, right? And it was crazy. Or I would keep revisiting a conversation that he and I had the previous day and get madder and madder and madder about him. So the end result was that that employee was a distraction to my team because he spoke down to every single person, and also made me less productive because I couldn't stop thinking about them in a bad way. Now, within a week of the last argument that I had in my head with them, that employee was fired. And our company grew more that quarter over the next couple of months than anybody on my team expected, because we were a team again, and everybody on our team was motivated to grow. And that's always the case, because the truth is, knowing when to fire somebody is vital to keeping your team strong. Tell me in the space below what some of the things are on your checklist that when an employee does them, you know beyond a shadow of a doubt they have to be let loose. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then please make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on the next video. And if you're seeing me on TikTok or Instagram or any other social platform, then jump over to YouTube and subscribe there too, because I share different content on different platforms, and I want you to have it all so that you have everything that you need to build a strong company in any economy.